That should, is that done it?
Not yet. Hold on, let me refresh.
It says there's one
Oh
person.
yeah, now it's good. Yep.
Yep. Okay. So we are now live. We are waiting for some women to join us. We have a man, Keck, but I'm going to chuck you out now, Keck, because you can watch this now. Okay.
Bye.
Well, sorry. What did you say? Oh, he's gone.
Oh no, I didn't say anything.
No. Sorry. What did you say, Keck?
On your, for example, I go on my subscriptions and it says Social Experimentist streamed 1 minute ago. That was your video. You did a 22-minute video, and there's nothing else about joining a new stream on YouTube for you. So,
but Frida has seen something else, haven't you, Frida? Is that right? Yeah, this is a woman-only stream. Yeah. You've come up with another film has come up on Social Experimentalist, yes? Another, and it's this.
People just need to go to your live tab on YouTube and it should pop up.
Right.
Where's the live tab? I'll just
sorry guys.
Should be like where it says videos, shorts. There should be something.
Oh yeah, I've got the live tab. It's not, there's nothing that's there now. They've done the stream that ended 3 minutes ago. That's all the last one it says. Oh wait, got it now. My bad. Okay, I'll leave.
Good job.
No problem. Right. Well, we now know it works, so that's good. We've got MJ and Sekhmet. Sekhmet has been here before, so we know that she is a female and so welcome. Is that your name, Sekhmet?
No, it's actually a pseudonym.
Oh, okay. You want to tell us what your name is, or make up a name that's a little bit easier, or you want to stick with that one?
We'll go for Sarah.
Sarah. Okay. Fine.
So yeah, a 25-year-old Egyptian antinatalist woman. You know, I've been an antinatalist for like I don't know, like 6-7 years. Yeah, so you wanna ask me something, or?
Yeah, no. Well, but I mean, basically, I'm going to see how many people turn up, and if enough people turn up, I'll leave you to it. If not,
okay,
then
sure.
I can maybe sort of ask you questions, and you can ask each other questions. So you can ask whatever you like. Now I've got a guy here who wants to come on, but no, you can't come on, Sid Barrett. This is only for women. Sorry about that. So you're being chucked. I did kind of make that. I think I made that clear, or maybe I didn't on the new film. Let me see if I can do that. Hold on. Can someone write in the chat that this is only for women? Because I started a new stream, so those people who came on just now won't know that this is only for women. So I don't know if someone can do that for me, because I'm just trying to manage this live stream and it's difficult for me to. Yes, can someone write that in there?
Yeah.
On the YouTube, you should make a pinned comment. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Got it. Okay. I'll see if I can do that. It's just I'm finding it really difficult to navigate this. I don't know. You know, I just don't know how to. I don't even know how to find this particular stream. Oh, here we go. Antinatalist women. Okay, here we go. Okay, I've put a comment here. I've put a thing in the description explaining that it's for women. I hope that's good enough. Okay. So Sid, it's only for women, I'm afraid. Men can, if you're a man, you can ask questions and put in the comments section. Sorry, can someone also put that in the YouTube? Did you put that, Frida? Was that in the YouTube comment section you did? Yeah? Okay, fine, because someone else has put it in here. Batman. Okay. Sid, I'm gonna have to kick you out because you're clearly not a woman with that moustache. Okay, so we've got two women here, and Sarah has just introduced herself. Frida, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. So my name is Alex, but on all my socials and YouTube, I go by Frida Animals. And I really kind of started identifying as like full antinatalist around the same time that I went vegan and started doing animal rights activism, which was around 5 years ago. I never really had a huge urge or desire to have kids. I got pregnant at 19 and that was like horrifying for me. And it really solidified the fact that I never wanted to be a parent. I just never saw motherhood in my future whatsoever. And so, yeah, I just realized, especially once I started doing animal rights activism, just how apathetic humanity is and just humans in general. And I just don't feel that this world will ever be conducive for anyone who's empathetic and compassionate. And it would be horrifying for them to have to deal with all of the things that you have to deal with. And so, yeah, I really felt like, my antinatalism really kind of strengthened during this time, especially in the last 5 years. And it got to a point where I feel now like people just need to speak up about it and need to talk about antinatalism and why procreation is unethical. Because, yeah, it's just, we can't remain silent anymore. It's just not possible, in my opinion. Like, people need to speak up about it. So yeah. That's me. And I'm 35. I'm also sterilized as well. I got my bilateral salpingectomy last year and it was so liberating. So if anyone has the opportunity to, free themselves of, our bodily function when it comes to reproduction, I highly recommend it. It's really liberating. And for me personally, the fact that I don't have to deal with birth control anymore is amazing because it's really not good for your body anyway. Definitely taking hormones all the time. It has a huge effect and a huge negative adverse effect. Most doctors don't even tell you what those negative effects are. But if you open up that, insert that you get with your birth control, the list is just so massive, but most of us don't even take the time to read it. So yeah, I didn't want to be on birth control anymore. I didn't want to have to deal with an IUD that made my cycles so painful. So for me, that was the most ideal situation in getting sterilized. So I highly recommend it to whoever wants it and has it available in their country or state or city or whatever. So that's me.
Great. Thank you, Alex. Sarah, would you like to would you like to have a chat with Alex or comment on anything that Alex has said there?
Okay, sure. So I agree with Frida a lot. Personally, I'm single. I've been single my whole life, so I don't really need to deal with, birth control and such. But I do think, like, it sucks that women have to put up with the burden of birth control. I mean, like, on one side, you get, like, pregnant and you have to deal with all of that and childbirth and whatever. And on the other side, if you don't want to get pregnant, then you're also gonna, you're gonna be the one who ends up on birth control, and it's usually very dangerous for the woman. It's especially the hormonal birth control. It's really disadvantageous to us, and Also, I've been like, um, you know, my reasons for becoming an antinatalist are like heavily intersected with my feminism. For example, I see that women are disproportionately subjected to horrors in life that men aren't necessarily subjected to.
Hold on. I don't know where that came from. Is that you?
Mm-mm.
Your sound, Sarah, is not great, to be honest. I don't know why. Oh, yeah, it's quite noisy. It's quite noisy. Okay.
I'm sorry. Is it better now?
Yes, a little better. It's a little better. Not still not great, but it's
Oh,
yeah. Oh, she's gone again. Gone on mute. Yeah, I mean, well, while she's on mute, I don't know how long she's going to be off there on mute, but by the way, if there are any other antinatalist women that want to join, you're more than welcome to join. We've got up to, I think, 10 people, or certainly up to 6 people can join at once. What do you think about that? There's so many interesting aspects. For me, there's so many interesting aspects and reasons for antinatalism. Yeah. And I think that the feminist one that I also find really fascinating. What do you think about that? Would you identify as a feminist, or do you? I don't know, that word means different things to different people, but what do you think about the feminist aspect of it?
For me, I guess I depends on like what version of feminism you have. But for me, like, I wouldn't necessarily consider myself a feminist. I mean, I believe in equality and yeah, that people shouldn't be oppressed just because of their gender. So I don't know if that would consider me if you would consider me a feminist or not in that sense, but I definitely think that having like ultimate bodily autonomy and being able to decide for yourself that you don't want to have children, I think that definitely aligns with feminism. Like, you should be able to make whatever choice you want. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with that. But I don't know if I would consider myself like a feminist to today's standards. So
Right. We're back. Hi, Sarah.
oh, hi. I hope the sound is a little better.
Yep.
Okay, sure. So yeah, I was saying like that, there are many feminist reasons, in my opinion, um, why a woman should be an antinatalist. For example, like male violence, sexual assault, rape. Like, these are things that disproportionately affect women and girls. And, also the fact that it could be like, if you have a child, you either have, in my opinion, an inevitable victim or a potential oppressor. Um, you know, and for me, for example, where I live, um, it's a very patriarchal, misogynistic culture, and I think like no matter how well I raise my child, if it's male, then there is like a very high chance that it will, have many influences in life that will be like, I don't know, like pop culture, like, they can associate with other misogynists and, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's so many things that can go bad, by having like a male child. You can have a pedophile, and this is like mostly genetically determined. So, there's not much you can do about that. Yeah, and if you're gonna have a female child, there's like, I don't know, like a 90+% chance she'll be sexually harassed, or assaulted. Um, there's a very high chance, she'll be discriminated against because of her gender. Um, yeah, so, that's my perspective.
Yeah, I mean, if I may, I'm not really meant to be involved too much in this discussion, but as we're talking about women and feminism, I mean, for me, I don't know how much you identify with this, but for me, I kind of, since I've discovered antinatalism and the objections to reproduction, I thought to myself, like, the idea of women's liberation becomes so ridiculous once you have a child. The idea that, oh, you can now vote, well, hooray, you can vote, or you can fight for the right to earn the same amount of money for your slavery, to your slave jobs as the men, right? But once you have a child, unless you're a psychopath, once a woman has a child, that liberation goes out, relative liberation, because I don't believe full liberation is available alive, but relative liberation goes out the window once you have a child, because you've got to look after and care for the child, and you're going to be worried about that child probably for the rest of your life, no matter how old you are and how old the child is. So just from that perspective, the idea that, a woman can be liberated and a mother, to me, doesn't really make much sense. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think like
Not
motherhood.
by the way, I actually think that there is a difference, though. There is a difference between a biological mother and someone, for example, who either marries, is like a stepmother or a foster mother or an adopted mother, because I think that if you choose those options, at least you don't have the guilt and anxiety of knowing that you created that person. And it's so, so if something goes wrong, which it always will, you're, at least you didn't create that person. So you can have a certain amount of liberation, if you like, if you go down that route. But to bring someone else into existence, I think, to say you're into women's liberation, to me, that sounds a bit strange. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, unfortunately, mothers take up the lion's share of childcare, and yeah, and it becomes much more difficult to leave an abusive partner. You're trapped with that person for like the rest of your life. Yeah. Yeah, and also there's gonna be so much guilt, having like a daughter, and so much anxiety, like sending her to school. Like I don't know, like I don't think I'd be able to sleep at night. Having a daughter in this world, like there's so much, um, horrors that can happen to her, and it's completely unnecessary. Like, she didn't ask to be born, and now she has to put up with this, and yeah, it's completely unnecessary.
Do you? What I wanted to ask you is, like, there's some quite obnoxious comments coming up here. I can't see the comments on YouTube, but I'm not surprised there are obnoxious comments coming up here, and we can go to them in a minute. They're quite funny as well.
Yeah, I always laugh. It's hilarious.
I know, it is great, yeah. You know, I mean, the thing is that I don't know if you've seen much of what I do with the megaphone on the street.
Yeah,
One
I
of
have.
the things that I've learned, and I benefited from doing that, is I realized that, you know, if someone asks a question or tries to be insulting or just says something, whatever, I just say, you know, for me, that's just that just shows where they're at. You know, it just shows where they're at, really. So I don't mind if people get a bit obnoxious or try and be funny, right? But I wanted to ask you in general, do you discuss your views with people, and men and women, and what kind of feedback do you get?
Oh, so you know, my views, you know, they're like, you know, they're tolerant of it.
You just cut out a sec. What did you say about your views?
Oh, I said that my parents know of my views,
Yeah.
and you know, they're tolerant of it. You know, like they'd like me to have you know, to get married and have children, but like they can't force me. So you know, like, you know, they just accepted it. Um, a couple of my friends know, uh, and about you know, my antinatalism. You know, they obviously think I'm crazy, um, and they don't agree with it. And yeah, I don't really discuss it much. Um, when I do discuss it, it's like from the perspective of a child-free person. Like, I don't necessarily go into the ethics of having a child. So yeah, you know, I haven't really gotten much backlash, but mainly that's because, you know, I try to keep it to myself. So yeah. Um,
For me, my parents are supportive of my antinatalism. I've talked to them about it. My dad was a little bit, I guess, sad. He grieved a little bit when he, you know, realized that I wasn't ever going to have children. And I personally don't even I don't even think I would want to adopt, honestly, or possibly foster, but I just don't see that really in my future anyway. So, but yeah, my dad was a little bit sad about it, but he got over it pretty quickly. They've always been pretty supportive of things. My mom has always been of the belief, like, it's your life, do what makes you happy as long as you're not harming anyone. So yeah, she was pretty excited for me when I had my bicep surgery. And then I was talking to her sometime this year, probably around like March, April of this year. And she said that she's really thankful and really happy that I'm not having any kids, because she couldn't imagine bringing a person into this world. And I had asked her probably, I think it was maybe a couple of years ago, like why she had me. And so my parents are still together and stuff, and they got married really young. They actually got married because my mom got pregnant. And so I lived in a country, like I was born in a country and lived there for a little bit, where abortion just wasn't available to her. And so she told me that. She said that she was because she couldn't get an abortion. And that's why I'm here. So I was like this close to not actually existing. But unfortunately, I was conceived in a place where that just wasn't an option for her. And whenever, you know, whenever I've done outreach with Stop Having Kids, and I bring that up if it comes up naturally in a conversation, people always feel like really sad for me, which I just don't understand, because it's not my fault, and it doesn't mean that she loves me any less right now. You know what I mean? Like, she just would have made a choice that was best for her. So, and they struggled a lot. Like, she didn't have would have made a choice that was best for her. And so she struggled they both struggled a bit. Like they didn't have much support from my mom's side of the family. And so it was hard for them, and they were in college and, yeah. So, and then as for my friends, my one like really, 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 really good friend, close friend, I consider her like a life partner, basically. And she actually has 2 kids, but she totally agrees with antinatalism. She's actually done Stop Having Kids outreach with me in Toronto. And she's definitely vocal about it as well. And she got a lot of shit from her friends and family on Facebook because she made a post about, how she just can't see how people are bringing more kids into existence, especially, when things are the way that they are right now. And like her sister, who was pregnant with twins, was like super upset about that. And like a lot of her friends really, just were really, really pissed about it. But I mean, she's totally right. And it's a prime example. Like, so she has 2 kids. She raised them, like she did plant-based pregnancy with both of them. She's raising them vegan. And her daughter, I mean, we can't really see her ever not being vegan, but her son, like, as soon as he's able to like do what he wants, he will not remain vegan. And it totally will it's going to go against everything that she is working towards. And so it's a great example of like the fact that you can't guarantee anything when you bring someone into existence. You can't guarantee that they'll remain vegan if you raise them vegan. You can't guarantee that they won't be harmed, that they won't harm others. I mean, I just read a statistic where it was from a study that was done in 2009, and 1 in 5 girls and 1 in 13 boys will be sexually assaulted by someone that they know. And yeah, I mean, that's like before the age of 18. And I feel like that alone is something that should deter people from bringing someone here. Like, if you truly love someone, why would you bring them into an existence where you know that they will be harmed? Like, you don't put people that you love in harm's way. And so, yeah, if that's, I don't think that's really love. And so I have like a lot of friends that do have children. I have talked to them about all this stuff. Whenever they tell me certain things like, oh, did you see this on the news? I was like, yep. Like, this is why I don't have kids and never will. But at the end of the day, like, people are always going to do whatever they want to do. So, but thankfully I've had like a pretty good support system. I did lose one friend over it, but honestly, I don't even really care because she wasn't that good of a friend anyway. So it's not that big of a deal to me. But the ones that do listen, like, can agree, they can acknowledge that what I'm saying makes sense and is technically, it's right. But at the end of the day, they're their own people. So they're just going to do whatever the fuck they want to do anyway. So.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, is there, by the way, if anyone's got any serious questions to ask, and then please do put them in the chat and I will put them to these lovely ladies, if I can call you that these days. So yeah, so what are the, I guess maybe you've already stated this, but what are the, maybe all the reasons that you are against procreation? Well, what are the reasons? Can you share with us? You really shared a little bit, but are there any other reasons that you haven't mentioned?
I mean, for me personally, the biggest reason is that you're just gambling with that person's life that you're bringing into existence. And you're also gambling with all the other people's lives and animal lives around them. And it's just such a risk. Like Sarah said, like, we didn't ask to be here. Like, we didn't consent to this. And, just because I enjoy my life currently for the most part, doesn't mean that if I bring someone here that they'll feel the exact same way. And as I said earlier, I just don't think that this world is conducive to empathy and compassion. And so, yeah, if my child was an empathetic person, you know, knowing how I feel about things because I give a shit, I just wouldn't want them to feel that way ever. And so, yeah, for me, I just don't want to put anyone in harm's way either, whether it's that person I bring into existence or anyone that they come in contact with, whether they're other humans or other animals. I would just prefer not to do that. So those are kind of like my main reasons. So
great, thank you. Sarah, what about you?
Yeah, so I agree with Rita a lot. And, you know, for me personally, I think like the act of pregnancy and childbirth to be, you know, I don't know, like horrific. Like the idea of having like, you know, a human being living inside of another human being, you know, parasitizing off of it. And, you know, it's just, it's gruesome. And to think that a lot of, you know, women, um, you know, in history didn't choose to become pregnant, you know, so they like became, you know, they fell pregnant from rape or whatever. And, you know, to be like, it's a feeling of being like trapped inside of your own body. And, um, you know, to have your own body betray you like that, you know, it's just, it terrifies me. And, yeah, and especially with like, uh, the state of like abortion laws, um, you know, in the states and but also around the world, you know, uh, reproductive rights are taken away from women, and you know, the idea that you can have a daughter who, you know, and she gets raped and has to um, uh, bear a child, and to raise it on top of it is just, you know, I think it's so cruel. Um, yeah, so, um, you know, like I've said, there are so many, you know, things that can happen to women, like, you know, violence. Um, um, yeah, it's just.
Okay. Thanks. I'm sorry to just interrupt you. There's someone else who wants to come in on the conversation by the name of Red Tiger, but it says device is not connected, so I'm not sure what that means. Whether you have to connect your microphone or your video. Obviously, you don't have to have the camera on, but I think you have to connect something. If you want to come on the conversation, obviously you need to be a female antinatalist if you want to. Okay.
So someone in the comments said I'm like hijacking antinatalism with veganism, which is like completely untrue. I just realized that when I did animal rights activism, that it really seemed like super futile because, in my opinion, if you bring another person into existence, like my life partner, who 1 out of 2 kids will not be vegan, it completely undoes all of that work. And so with antinatalism, regardless if you're vegan or not, it just addresses the root cause of all of our problems, which is humans. I mean, we are like the architects of our own demise. We are the ones that are destroying everything around us. So yeah, antinatalism just it's the root, it addresses the root cause, which is humans. So I'm not like hijacking anything. But it's not surprising because there's a lot of antinatalists who are very anti-vegan and just don't give a shit, and that's fine. I mean, there's no problem with that if you if you just want to be antinatalist, it's kind of hypocritical as well too, because you're you're completely fine with also the mass breeding of billions, tens of billions of animals, which kind of goes against being anti-procreation. So, but that's fine. I just wanted to address that. I'm not hijacking anything.
Yeah. Thank you for addressing that. I'd like to come back to you in a moment, but I'm going to go to the questions. But before I forget, I just wanted to make one comment. Is that I would question whether it's humans that are the problem. Humans are the problem, and they are a huge problem. But there's also the problem of the creation itself, and of life itself, and of being a human in a human body. Yeah, is by creating a human body, you create the potential and the guarantee, but the potential for a huge amount of harm to happen even naturally. So, it could be that you have a daughter and she may be seriously unwell, and, maybe she's never raped or she's never sexually assaulted, but she could have some awful disease, or she could have, some awful disability. So it's not just man, in my opinion. It's not just humans that are the problem. It's life itself that's, in my opinion, badly designed. And in a way, I feel like it's badly designed, that a woman gets off worse. So in other words, and me as a parent, in a way, I don't know if my daughter will watch this, but in a way, I feel like even more uncomfortable about the fact that I brought a woman into existence, because if I'd had the choice, kind of knowing what the different choices were, if I was, before I was conceived, if I would have had the choice and say, look, would you like to be a man or a woman, I would definitely have taken the man option, because I think it's less, whatever, for lots of reasons. But I'm not going to go into that, because I don't want to hijack this conversation, because it's for you guys. But I just wanted to say that. Okay, Ella Seal has said, serious question: nature evolved a depressive brain function that allowed subordinate monkeys to mate using sneaky stealth by avoiding direct confrontation. Why? I'm not sure. Sorry, I hadn't read that question before I read it out. Now that I've read it, I have no idea what on earth she's talking about. Do you? No?
I don't know.
I don't know either. Okay, we'll move on. Let me see if I can find any question. Here, hold on.
But yeah, I agree with you, Danny, that life in general, by design, is just it's unhospitable, basically. But so yeah, I think even if life was like really easy, I still wouldn't I still wouldn't bring someone into existence. So I might not be as against others bringing someone into existence. Like, let's say if it was, no suffering, blah, blah, blah. But for me personally, I still wouldn't want to do that. Because again, there's that whole obviously consent aspect of it. And even if there wasn't suffering, someone might still not want to exist. So for whatever reasons.
Okay, so we've got a tough question here from Avinator13, who says, is human life valuable?
I mean, like, I would never advocate for, killing our already existing life, or just completely, like genociding people or anything like that. So I guess in that sense, maybe yes, but I don't think it's valuable enough to bring another person into this existence, in my opinion. So,
I mean, my response to that would be, you see, a lot of questions I've learned from from years and years of doing public speaking, in provocative public speaking, and speaking in places like Speaker's Corner, but also on the streets, that when people ask questions, there are all sorts of like assumptions in those questions. And, you know, what does that even mean? Is human life valuable? What does that mean? Yeah, I think that he or she was trying to get to what you're saying, right? It's sort of, it's a bit of a trick question and trap question, because, you know, they're probably sort of maybe, I don't know what they had in mind when they asked it, but a lot of people ask questions like that because they're trying to get you into a corner and say, oh, you're all for killing people, right? What does it mean? Is human life valuable? I don't even know what that means. Yeah. The point that you're making is that, I understand it, is that to bring someone into existence, yeah, has with it both risks and guarantees of harm, serious harm in many cases, and death. And usually the death is not very nice, you know, for the person dying. The dying process is not very nice. Yeah. The death process, you could argue the death process is okay for the person that dies, but it's often not so great for the people who are left behind. So yeah, so you know, whether life or human life is valuable or not, in a way, is not really that, in my opinion, not really that relevant to this conversation. Okay, we've got a few other questions. Bear with me. In the meantime, while I look at the questions, Sarah, did you have anything to say?
Yeah, like I was just gonna say that I agree with you, and you know, like valuable is a, you know, it's a meaningless concept, like you know, and it's also value is subjective. Like I may view my life as valuable. Someone else may view their life, you know, as not. So you know, it's just, you know, up to the person, you know, living, and yeah.
Okay. I'm just looking through the questions now, bearing me or not. Yeah, so the person that asked the question says, valuable is a meaningless concept, question mark. No, I'm not saying it's a meaningless concept. I'm just saying it's a very, I mean, I don't even know what you mean by it. That's what I'm saying. I don't know what you mean by that, and I don't know why you asked the question. Why do you ask the question, Avinata? Right? Why do you want to know whether human life, whether we or anybody else thinks that human life is valuable? Why are you asking that? So let me just have a look here, see if there's anything else. In the meantime, while I look at the questions, is there anything else you'd like to talk to each other about? Maybe ask each other anything.
That's a good question. I don't know. I can't think of anything like right off the top of my head at this moment, but I'm sure I'll have something that comes up as we keep talking.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, so he's saying, I believe you're dodging the question. I wasn't talking about whether you should kill people who are alive. I'm asking whether you believe life has inherent value. And I don't really understand what you mean by that. I don't know what you mean by that. What does it mean?
Yeah.
Life has inherent value. What does that mean, even?
Yeah. What does that mean?
I don't know.
Yeah,
So,
it's a tricky question because, like, if we said no, then they'll go like, "Why don't you kill everybody then?"
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Or why don't you kill yourself? Or...
Yeah.
Exactly. Like,
and if you say yes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Again, if you say yes, then you say, well, then why shouldn't we bring in more people? Because life is inherently valuable, whatever that means. But what does that even mean? Okay, let me just have a look. Hold on a minute. Okay. Okay, guys, by the way, whilst we're just like, you know, whilst I'm just screening through these things, I'm going to invite you all to just take a little meditation, do some breathing, some nice, comfortable breathing. while I do this, while I have a look and see if there's any questions that are worth asking these.
I think someone earlier said something about like circumcision. And I think circumcision is horrific. I don't think we should be, just as much as, you know, as much as I think female genital mutilation is wrong, I also think that mutilating a baby boy's body is wrong as well. And I think if someone wanted to get to be circumcised, they could definitely have that later on in life. But I don't think we should be messing with any of that. So
yeah, and it's like infringing on the bodily autonomy of children. Like a lot of people treat like their children as like personal property. Like they can do whatever they want with them, and it's just wrong.
Yeah, definitely, I agree. So
I mean, I'm going to share with you a little bit about circumcision because I come from an Orthodox Jewish background, and it's so and it's funny because natalism is absolutely it's just totally it's so deeply embedded in the culture that it's like it's not talked about even. It's not. Do you see what I mean? It's not. There's no more necessity to talk about it than talk about wearing clothes, right, in the culture, because it's just absolutely deeply embedded in the culture, as is circumcision. And I used to feel really, really bad about the fact that both of my sons were circumcised. I used to feel terrible, and at the time the second one was born, I was already far away from believing in traditional Orthodox Jewish ideas and values and law, and I felt really, really bad. That was 16 years ago. But since I came to antinatalism, whilst I can see why you'd think it's horrific, I think it pales into unbelievable insignificance, right? Compared to all the other harms that have already come to my children, that my children have already, caused others, whether it's animals or humans or the environment, and that will come to my children. Yeah, it's just totally paled into insignificance.
yeah,
No,
for
it's not
sure.
the worst thing that can happen. Millions of men are circumcised, and I'm not saying that like I'm for it or something, but I mean it's not really the worst thing that can happen to someone. It can be potentially very dangerous. Some boys actually lose their penises because of it. But that's.
So we've got. I'm going to read out. This isn't so much a question, but just a comment. And see what you wanted to say to this comment, and which is, I'll put it on the screen. Humans who are psychopathic are the problem to the world's problems to the world's problems.
The world's problems.
That's not a very well put together sentence, but basically he's saying that the problems are the psychopathic humans. That's the problem.
Yeah, but then how can you guarantee your child will not be a psychopath? Like, it's like psychopathy and sociopathy. I think it's mostly genetically determined, and obviously, like, nurture can have influences on it, but like there's no way you can guarantee your child will not be a psychopath. So why risk it? I think 2% of the population are psychopaths, or I'm not sure of the statistic, but it's not negligible, really. So why risk it?
I think apathy is more detrimental because like the sheer scale of how many people are apathetic versus how many people are psychotic is much bigger. And I mean, if someone just doesn't care, then I think that causes a lot of problems for sure. So it's probably causes way more problems.
Yeah, also like narcissism, like what is it, like 10% of the population are have NPD disorder. Like, yeah, so these people who are deeply unapathetic and you know, they lack empathy and like can do serious harm. Yeah, so
Okay, so just a quick comment. JT says, "Can I come on the show? I'm stoned as f though." Now, I don't mind you coming on the show, but I mean, you don't. It's not. I haven't said anywhere in the advertising that you have to be straight and not. But you do have to be a woman and an antinatalist, JT. So if you're that stoned that you can't figure out that, you know, whether you're a woman and an antinatalist, then you can't come on. But from your picture, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong here, but from the picture, it looks like you might be a man. If you're a woman and you're an antinatalist, then you can come on, stoned or not. Unless you guys have got an objection to that.
I'm good.
Yeah.
I just wanted to clarify that like 10% of the population are narcissists, not not on the NPD like spectrum or whatever. Because someone pointed it out in the comment that I've said like 10% of the population are NPD, and yeah, that's probably not true. Yeah, so that's it.
Yeah, someone just said, oh, here we go. I'll just put it on here. Oh, it's just going to be a massive echo chamber. All right, I'm out. Well, fine, you go. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Society is literally an echo chamber for natalism. So,
oh,
okay.
Exactly. And by the way, as I said, you know, there are comments. You're more than welcome to, you know, to ask some serious questions in the comments. But I'm no way I'm opening up to people like to breeders and natalists like you lot. Coming from a breeder myself. I think we've got someone. We've got someone else here. Yeah, I think we've got a fourth person here. Who's is it Kitty Cat? You want to say something? Hello, Kitty Cat. That Kitty Cat there? Kitty Cat, may I first confirm that you are a female and an antinatalist?
Yes, I am.
Wonderful. Welcome to the show. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and when you first came to antinatalism and how you came to antinatalism and yeah.
Okay. I think I learned about it for the first time a few years ago. When I was questioning if I should have children because I couldn't make up my mind. So I just Googled terms like why do we have to have children, blah blah blah, and then I came across antinatalism. I remember at the time the Reddit community there were just around 3,000 members. Like not like now. Like now it's been like triple, multiplied, So I discovered it. I think still quite in the early stage of antinatalism, and I remember when I first read about it, I instantly agreed with almost everything.
And how old are you and where do you live? And
I was right now I'm in my early 40s, and I live in Europe.
Right. And yeah, right. And how long was it ago that you found out about antinatalism?
I think 2017, around there. And actually, I just came back from the UK. And I was in London, and I thought I wanted to meet you, Danny. But I couldn't find out where you would do your meetings. Your public speaking. You're very mysterious to me.
Yeah, I'm not. I do it very spontaneously, so I don't know where I'm going to be at any time.
Oh, so there's no way to know
If you really want to
beforehand.
put me down, you have to be quite persistent about it.
Okay. Well, next time then.
So The Roots of Evil has written something which is quite harsh, but I thought I'd read it out and see what you have to say about it, if anything. This existence is psychotic. Everything is killing and eating each other. It's a vile, disgusting place. Whoa, that's strong. What do you think about that?
I don't know. I quite agree. It's quite obvious to me.
Yeah. I mean, nature itself is definitely very brutal. I don't know about you guys, but whenever I watch any shows on like Animal Planet or something like that, and I'm always torn because obviously, the lion has to kill the gazelle to eat, but then also too, it's like if the lion doesn't eat, he dies. If the lion does eat, the gazelle dies. And it's just, I mean, nature in and of itself is like really, really brutal. So I mean, they're not wrong. It's true. It is a very it is a very vile and disgusting place. It's really ugly, and yeah, I mean, you don't even have to look at just the natural world, just like look at what we do too to each other. I mean, there's literally open air slave markets still to this day happening. Children are molested. We still kill each other. We exploit each other. Human trafficking is rampant. I mean, it's.
Just look at politics. What's happening now in the politics? The UK is the same. The politicians, what they're doing, struggling for power. All this power struggle for what? All these changes. I mean, prime minister after. I mean, they change that all the time. The leaders.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to go heavily into politics because, but that's a whole nother subject, right?
Okay.
A whole nother subject. Yeah, I mean, yeah, he makes a fair point about that, and of course, you haven't mentioned it, but right now, but I mean, the animal. I mean, just I can't even get it out of my mouth. It's like factory farming is just it's horrendous. It's just horrendous. It's incredible.
Unimaginable.
We allow that to happen. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. The scale of it and the nastiness of it is just horrible. It's horrific. It really, really is. Yeah. But then since I found out about antinatalism, I then came across wild animal suffering, which is apparently many, many times worse than the suffering. It affects so many animals, and there's so many so many ways in which animals suffer in the wild. So Dan Rowson says, well, let's see how transhumanism experiment goes. End of humans anyway. Maybe. Okay. So anything you guys would like to ask each other as female antinatalists? Anything you'd like to ask each other?
What's the who have you gotten the most pushback from for being antinatalist, and what were some of the things that they said to you?
Okay. Should I go first?
Sure.
Okay. So could you just please repeat the question, because I didn't I had an internet disconnection or something. So
Sure. So, who have you gotten the most pushback from about your antinatalism, and what did they say? What were their arguments against it?
Oh yeah. So usually, like, when I discuss antinatalism with people, they say, like, you're being negative and you're always thinking about the bad stuff, and, like, you know, why do you bother getting out of the house? You could get hit by a car, if you know, if that's your mindset or whatever. And yeah, so yeah, it's, you know, you're so pessimistic, and you know, like, stuff like everything happens for a reason, like, um, we wouldn't be like, you have to have, like, the bad to appreciate the good kind of stuff. And yeah, so it's mostly stuff like that.
And what about you, Kitty Cat? Do you have any?
Same.
Yeah.
They will always come up. They will always come up with the optimism bias argument. I mean, they all have this, and when you mention the negatives, they would just brush it off. They will say, "Yeah, don't be so negative. Uh, look at what you've got. Be grateful for what you have." Blah blah blah.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like you to explain a bit more about that, because I don't think many people necessarily have heard, and certainly people watching who watch after this won't necessarily know what optimism bias is. But before you do that, I just wanted to just chip in, even though I'm not a woman, and you may have noticed, that I do feel like I do feel like kind of in a kind of, how can I say it? I kind of try and create balance in my own life, in terms of, yes, I mean, I am, I mean, I'm at the moment, I feel like I haven't come across any even half-baked, half-decent argument as to why we should bring anybody into existence. Yeah. And I'm also acutely aware of all the horrors that are in the world, that are horrors, whether it's for people or for animals, and the pain and the suffering and all of that stuff I'm aware of. And also, I do personally, in my own personal life, I do, as part of my, I don't know how to describe it, I suppose, maybe I'd call it spiritual practice, although I don't particularly like that word so much, or I find that word difficult as a difficult word, because it means all sorts of different things to different people. But I try and practice on a daily basis appreciation, because I do feel that I am very, very lucky, and many of us are, compared to many other people. So I do feel, paradoxically, I do feel I am very pessimistic about life itself, and about all the horrors that are going on, and about all the people who are nowhere near as fortunate as me, and all the people who are exploited in order for me to have such a great life. And at the same time, I feel like that it's a good idea, and it's healthy to appreciate what I do have, and the life I do have, which, you know, I do feel extremely fortunate to have the life that I have. I just wanted to say that. But
Yeah.
before I continue, can you explain what optimism bias is?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
I feel like because humans have this survival instinct, they want to survive. It's their instinct, you know. So they would justify everything that happens in their lives in a positive way. They would rationalize everything, even pain and suffering. To me, is not right. I mean, humans are not able to see the world or reality as it is. But I think how you see the world has a lot to do with your subjective experience. I mean, if you're lucky, if you have a good life, if good things happen to you, I can imagine you would think life is a beautiful thing. But for me personally, because I feel nothing good, nothing good has happened to me I mean, in my life. I mean, sorry, my English is not. I don't speak. English is not my native language. So
you're doing fine. You're doing fine.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think
you're crushing it.
Yeah.
So my subjective experience with life is quite a negative one. I have to say this. So this may make me maybe I have a negative bias. I don't know. So I may be wrong. So this is why I often argue with people about antinatalism. Is comes down to how we see life fundamentally. I'm a pessimist or realist, but they just don't see. Most people just don't see life that way, and there's no way that I can convince them that life is an imposition or is not a blessing. You know, this is the one of the hardest parts of trying to convince someone to consider antinatalism, I think.
Yeah, people like to think that life is a gift.
Yes. They just don't think beyond that. They would not think deeper than that.
Yeah, I think it has a lot to do with toxic positivity as well, because I mean, like you said, people.
You just dropped out, and you were much better before. The
Okay.
sound was better.
Like
I don't know what you did to change it, but.
So yeah, it's the whole. It has to do with toxic positivity as well, and just completely disregarding the realities of existence. You know,
what is toxic? Again, I think some people may not be familiar with that.
So toxic positivity is when you just essentially, like, it doesn't matter what happens, you know, everything's going to be just fine and it's okay, and it's essentially just disregarding the realities of what's happening around you, you know. What Kit Kat said, or Kitty Cat said, it's just basically, thinking that it doesn't matter how bad it gets, things will always get better. And that's just not true. And when you are dealing with someone who has that toxic positivity and you're trying to explain to them, you know, whatever what's going on in your life, whatever things or whatever afflictions you're dealing with, they can never just say it's okay and I understand and, you know, I want to be here and listen to you. They always try and wrap it in some positive spin, and they can't just acknowledge your experience and what it's for. So to kind of give you an example of like what toxic positivity is, I was talking to one of my friends about, so I was actually sexually assaulted when I was 17. And we were talking about positivity and things like that. And she told me that what happened to me for a reason. And I was like,
awful. Yeah, that's awful.
What?
Yeah.
I actually ended up walking out of her house because I just like couldn't believe it. And I was like, what reason could that have been for? Like, and she's like, well, you know, to make you a better person, or to make you stronger. And it's like, I didn't need to have that happen to me for me to be a better person or to be stronger. And for like a good part of my life, I completely just blacked that out. Like, I just repressed that shit so fucking hard. I would say probably for about 10 years, maybe even longer, I just completely repressed it. And so that's the kind of mentality that toxic positivity creates, where instead of just acknowledging and saying that's really fucked up and I'm sorry that happened to you, she couldn't reconcile that and had to like put some positive spin on it when there isn't any positive spin. I mean, literally nothing positive can come out of sexual assault ever. Never. Like there's just nothing good. If there are better ways to learn lessons than violating someone's body in that way. So that's kind of like the mentality of toxic positivity. It's like, you know, when someone's like, oh, well, you know, there's all these people that are suffering in the world and there's people that are struggling to survive and, you know, but they're still grateful for their lives. And it's like, you don't know that. They could be grateful to be alive, but, you know, that doesn't mean that what's happening to them is okay or should be justified just because they might be grateful to be alive. So that's kind of like that toxic positivity. It makes you disregard the realities of what's happening and what people experience. So
Okay, thank you for explaining that.
Yeah, I just wanted to add like that, you know, it taps into the notion of justice, you know, in the world. Like, so many survivors don't get justice, and you know, like their rapist, you know, continues to live their life, you know, unscathed, and they have to live with the trauma and, you know, the mental anguish that comes with it, and you know, it's just so unfair, and I think that's why everybody should be an antinatalist. It's just, you know, it's unfair, and yeah.
Okay, I'm going to I just wanted to get back to optimism bias, because you didn't really explain that you kind of explained toxic optimism very well. But can you just be just elucidate what is optimism bias? Because in a way, Kitty Cat, you kind of sort of veered off to say that you're a pessimist, yeah, and that maybe you've got a pessimistic bias, which may or may not be true. But I think that your point about optimism bias is a good one that I think David Benatar speaks about. Can you elucidate on what optimism bias is?
I just try to explain that, but I don't know if I'm in a good position to
Yeah, it's the language. The language, you mean the language barrier? Okay, so
I looked it up. I can read it off if someone wants.
Okay, go on.
So the optimism bias is essentially a mistaken belief that our chances of experiencing negative events are lower and our chances of experiencing positive events are higher than those of our peers.
Yeah. That you see, that is, I mean, as a father of three, yeah, it didn't even occur to me that I would have a child that was seriously ill or seriously mentally ill or seriously disabled. And when I say that and people say, oh, how can you say that? Every life is valuable and all this. Yeah, but the point is that if you think about it from the child's point of view, for a start, never mind from my point of view and my partner's point of view and the world's point of view, and what a burden that experience is. And I have friends that have got that situation, and I can tell you that is a huge burden to them, a huge burden. It's really, really difficult for them, right? And but what about also from the children's point of view? I never for one moment thought about it before I procreated. I never for one moment considered, well, hold on a second, what happens if I'm the one that has whatever it is, and what is that going to be for the child that's created? So I think that's a very important point you brought about optimism bias, is that we don't think it's going to be us.
Or they call you an ableist.
Sorry?
Some people would call you like an ableist.
Yeah.
If you decided to not have a disabled child, let's say, for example, you don't want to have a child because they'll likely have Down syndrome. And then they'll say, well, you're just being an ableist, and every child is special and deserving of life, or blah blah blah. But when you think about it, that child is likely to have cardiac issues and all hosts of other health issues, and it's so self-centered to think that.
Well, you see, it's interesting because common sense has come out here saying, my son is disabled, he's not a burden, he is happy and has a full life in front of him. Well, now listen, I have a Down syndrome nephew, you know, and out of all his siblings, he's definitely the happiest one, right? Most of the time. I don't have anything against him, you know. It's not. This is. I don't really particularly want to spend too much time on this because it just opens up, you know, all sorts of crazy cans of worms, right? But you know, I don't have anything against that. I don't discriminate against him. As I said to you, he's a very, very loving child. Yeah, but to say he's not a burden is ridiculous. Because if your child is not if any of your children are not a burden, then you're doing something wrong. Of course they're a
Exactly. Yeah.
burden. Of course they're a burden. I don't mean that necessarily a terrible thing, but they are a burden, and they're a bird. And you know, and the truth is that, for example, my nephew, yeah, his parents have several other children, far too many if you ask me. Right, it's my brother, right? He has several other children, and when this was his last child, and the amount of money and time and effort they've spent, you know, to get him to a level of pretty high functioning Down syndrome is colossal. Not just their time and money, but time and money of people, all sorts of people in society. Yeah. So you know, to say to anybody is not to some extent a burden, right? I think that's ridiculous. I'm not saying there's any, you know, I'm not saying that a disabled child can't be happy. In fact, as I said before, you know, on the whole, Down syndrome people are a lot happier in many ways. Not all of them. Some of them are really not at all, right? But some are, and many are, and it's part of their characteristic. But like you said, they also have a lot of physical and medical problems, and also Down syndrome is just one type of disability. There can be all sorts of other types of disability, which, as I said, you know, it's like I wouldn't want to have, I personally would not want to have those disabilities myself. I wouldn't want that. So if I wouldn't want that, why am I taking a risk at bringing someone into existence that will have what I don't want? And in a way, since I've become an antinatalist, and since this is about women and antinatalists, you know, if someone asks in the comments, would you rather have not been born? Yes. And often when I'm speaking about antinatalism in public, you know, people say things like, well, if I was given the choice to be born or not, I would have taken it. Yeah. But that's not the right question. The right question is, if before you were born, imagine like before you were born, let's just assume there's such a thing as a soul, which I don't think there is, but whatever that is, anyway, I don't know. But let's say there's a soul, and let's say there's a God, which if there is a God, I can only assume that God, I only see evidence of that God being a bit malicious, a lot malicious. But okay, let's assume there was a nice God that gave us all a choice to come here into existence. And you know, and when it came to our soul, it said, "Okay, would you like to come into existence?" And then my soul would say, "Well, what do you mean? What does it entail?" And then you know, this God would, you know, give you a whole, you know, smorgasbord of possibilities. And the first possibility is, well, you could be a man or a woman, yeah. So you know, at that stage, I would say, no, thanks. I'm not taking a risk. I'm not taking a risk of being a woman. I don't want to be walking around the streets and everyone looking me up and down, thinking, "Oh, do I want to have sex with you or not?" You know, that in itself is bad enough. I wouldn't want to have periods, right? I wouldn't, you know, I wouldn't want to have the menopause. You know, whatever, you know. So,
Yeah.
And I think this whole argument too with like I mean there's so many people that aren't obviously antinatalists who find out because you can get there's tests for these things to find out if your child has any kind of issues, and one of those is, you know, Down syndrome. There's plenty of people that are clearly not antinatalists that would have an abortion if they found out that their kid was going to be born with Down syndrome. So I don't know why that's always like why that's always like so thrown at antinatalists, that like I don't know. It's ridiculous. Like, there's plenty of pronatalists that want these like perfect specimen of children. I just read an article today where all of these like, it was talking about like Elon Musk and a bunch of other like super rich, wealthy, like completely demented people that basically are tracking their embryos to see which one is going to be like the most ideal specimen of a human and things like that, and that it's like their duty to like populate the earth with these like perfect people. And it's like, it's so demented to me and very circa 1930s, if you ask me. Like, and then there's also I don't know if you guys have heard about like designer babies, where people are literally, you know, like they're like, I want my kid to be this tall and to have blue eyes or brown eyes or whatever color hair, and I want them to be a girl or a boy. And so they're like messing with like nature, which is so bizarre to me, because a lot of them use this whole like natural argument, but then you like try and defy nature. You know, if you can't have kids, then you try and do it in another way, whether it's IVF or surrogacy. Like, there's nothing natural about that whatsoever. So yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but it's just really annoying when anti-natalists are accused of like being ableist or anything like that, when natalists are ableist as fuck all the time. Like, you will literally abort your kid because they have, and I'm not saying that's everyone, but a lot of people will do that. So
okay, we've got some interesting points here, questions. Firstly, someone, Red Tiger, actually wrote in the private chat, and I've just pasted it here. A question for common sense: will your son be able to cope with life on his own when you pass away? So maybe you'll answer that in the comments, because that's another very good question.
It's an excellent question.
Yeah. Secondly, okay, so then we also had another comment that's saying, the question is, would you want to be born today? You know, that's another question, isn't it? Like, in this time, I personally think it doesn't make any difference when it is, right? But like, even I think that even more so perhaps than ever, really, in a way, although I feel like in some ways many of us are obviously living the best life, that, you know, a much better life than many of our descendants. So you could argue maybe this is a good time to be brought in, but I'm not so sure it's such a great time to be brought in, because I think I think we've probably reached somewhere near the top, and I suspect it's downhill from there. But anyway, we've got a comment here: social experimentists, bloody cheer up.
Just because you're a realist doesn't mean that you're depressed all the time. That's another thing that's really that's so frustrating. Like, I can find, joys in parts of my life, and I experience happiness, even though I'm a realist and I can acknowledge all of the suffering and injustice and oppression that is going on in the world. I still want to find some sort of I find happiness in moments in my life. So just because you're a realist doesn't mean that you're unhappy all the time.
Yeah. So Nobby Noble says some people have kids for better social benefits. Yes, we know that. So what else have we got here?
Daniel, I just wanted to add, like you mentioned,
please come in.
Yeah, you mentioned the idea of a malicious God, and a common pushback I get from like natalists is, well, you just think that because, well, you lack faith in God. And it's so like weird because, the notion of like there being a God and the afterlife, I think it should make people like lean towards antinatalism more, because like if you think of an afterlife and like where there's a risk of you going to hellfire, well, why would you risk that to your child? Like,
Yes.
and it's not just your child, but your child's children and their children, and so on and so forth. So it's not just one person being affected. It's like, you know, however many generations you like decide to, you know, bring into existence. So, you know, it's just inconceivable to me that, you know, a lot of people just don't think about that. Like, you know, the lack of existential, like, I don't know, um, like introspection, or, you know, like, you know, it's just like, how can you not think about that? You know, like, what happens after we die? Like, if there is a God, well, how do you guarantee that you'll go to heaven? How do you guarantee it for your child? It's inconceivable to me why anyone would take that risk.
Yeah.
There was a question that I noticed earlier. I can't find it now, but there was a question that says, how do you respond to people that say life is a gift?
In what way?
Well, an
Well,
unsolicited gift, that is.
I think the person asking the question has got antinatalist tendencies. And I think what they were asking is, like, when you come across people that say,
Oh no, I know. I'm saying like how is it a like?
oh, I see. Sorry.
Yeah, like explain like how is it a gift? Like
Well,
what?
people, I'm sure people in the comments can think that life is a gift. There have been people saying that. You know,
I mean, I would say if life is a gift, where is my like gift receipt? Because I would like to return it. Thank you.
Take it back. What would you swap it for if you took it back to the shop?
Non-existence. So
yeah, I mean, I remember someone wrote a whole blog about this, saying that, you know, the idea about life as a gift is a bit like, you know, get in the middle of the night, you wake up a friend and you drag him to a party, and that he didn't really consent to go to. And it's a very, very long party. It lasts 80 years, and it's not all like roses and dancing and everything. It's got some dancing and some nice food in it, but there's also some really horrible parts of the party, and he can't leave the party very easily. I mean, he can if he really, really tries very hard, but he can't leave the party. And that's, you know, that's the type of gift. And someone said in the comments actually as well, you know, okay, even if life is a gift, have you never had a bad gift?
I was just about to say that not every gift is a wanted gift or a good gift, and not everyone wants gifts. You know, not everyone wants to be given something. So that's like a perfect point, I think.
Yeah. Okay, so we've been at it for quite a long time, nearly 1.5 hours. So I think we should probably look to drawing towards a close. Before I do, I'm going to have a little last peruse of the comment section to see if there's anything worth looking at. In the meantime, does anybody else have anything that's you know, anything you want to say? And just to remind you all watching and you guys now with us, I am one of the most important tools that I use in my life is silence and pausing. I try and do it many times a day. It's really powerful. So if you don't have anything to say, and we just have some nice quiet time together, all of us, that's you three and all the people watching, then that's also fine. So if any of you got anything else to say, I'm going to peruse the comments to see if there's anything more that I want to share with you all. In the meantime, any of you have got anything to say?
I guess since it's kind of like a female antinatalist focused thing, I think one of the weirdest things that I've had someone say to me that was like really off-putting, and they were a total stranger to, is when I was doing outreach, that as a female, as a woman, that it's like my responsibility, and like I was given this gift to create life, and I'm just like this life creator, and that I'm just a vessel for life, which is like that was so weird to me and really disturbing.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it is weird and it's disturbing, and sadly, I mean, in certain cultures, certainly including ultra-Orthodox Judaism, I mean, the ultra-Orthodox basically treat women like they are just baby factories, and that's all there is to it.
Yeah.
And they have like competitions with each other, how many children they can have. So yeah, it doesn't.
Yeah, we have that as well in like Muslim majority countries. You know, yeah, they treat it like a competition. I mean, like chill, like they like who cares if you have like 3 or 4, 5 children? I mean, like you're the one who's gonna be burdened with caring for them. Like, yeah, it's really not like nonsensical.
Yeah. What else we got here? Anybody else want to say anything? Because I think I think I've got to the bottom of the barrel of the comments. I don't expect much from natalists. What can I tell you? I'm an ex-natalist myself. So someone's written here. Oh, you see, I used to be into all this kind of new agey type stuff, and now I look back at it and corp. Anyway, someone says something like, "Life is a gift. That's why they call it the present. You know, like the present moment. Present moment is a gift." Yeah, right. Tell that to the people in, you know, in I don't know, Gaza or Yemen or you know, or the Royal Free Hospital or whatever.
Tell that to the almost million homeless people in America.
Exactly. Okay. I think that we're going to call it a day. Thank you so much for coming on, you guys. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
thank
was
you.
nice talking to everyone.
And hope we can, you know, speak soon, maybe.
Yeah, sounds
Yeah,
good.
Okay.
Bye.
Hold on a second. I'm just going to try and figure out whether I can end the broadcast, but not end you guys.
Okay.
I'm going to press end broadcast to see if
Okay, see what happens.
All
All right.
afterwards, and where we can, you
Okay.
know, speak freely
Yeah.
without all this lot watching. Hold on a second.